The summer cabin retreat had been Marcus's idea. Disconnect to reconnect, he'd said with that charismatic smile that had made him both a successful therapist and the de facto leader of their friendship group. 5 friends, 1 rustic cabin in the mountains of Vermont. No cell service except for satellite Wi-Fi. A digital detox with just enough connectivity to avoid complete isolation. Isla checked her watch. 9:17 p.m. Outside, the mid-November darkness pressed against the windows like a living thing, held at bay only by the warm glow of the stone fireplace and scattered lamps throughout the open-plan living area. Rain had been falling steadily for hours, drumming on the roof and transforming the dirt road that connected them to civilization into what Isla imagined was now an impassable mud slick. "Your turn, Nate," said Danny, nudging her husband as she tucked a strand of her dark hair behind her ear. The Scrabble board between them was cluttered with words that revealed more about their personalities than perhaps any of them realized. Marcus with his psychological terms, Danny with her scientific vocabulary, Nate with surprising poetic combinations, Charlie with pragmatic, straightforward constructions, and Isla herself with words that deliberately crossed and connected with everyone else's, always the mediator. Nate placed his tiles carefully, forming dread and connecting it to an existing A. "Seriously?" Charlie laughed, pushing his glasses up his nose. "We're in a remote cabin during a thunderstorm, and you play dread? Very atmospheric, Professor." 15 points, Nate said with a satisfied grin, tallying his score. "And technically, it's not a thunderstorm yet, just rain." As if contradicting him, a flash of lightning illuminated the windows, followed by a rumble that seemed to shake the very foundation of the cabin. The lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. "You were saying?" Danny smirked at her husband. "I stand corrected," Nate conceded, raising his wine glass in a mock toast. The television they'd left on in the background as ambient noise suddenly emitted a harsh, static-filled tone. Isla turned, expecting to see the standard emergency broadcast test, but instead, the screen displayed a simple, black background with a single word in white, blocky text. "Conceal." "What channel is that?" Marcus asked, frowning. Charlie, closest to the remote, picked it up and pressed a few buttons. "It's on every channel." "Probably a storm warning," Danny said, though usually they're more informative. Isla's laptop, open on the side table where she'd been intermittently checking work emails, suddenly flashed to the same screen. The black background, the white text, and the words "Conceal." "Guys," she said, her voice catching, "my computer too." Almost in unison, the 3 phones sitting on the coffee table lit up. Each displayed the same message. No additional information, no explanation, just that single, terrible imperative. Conceal. "Okay, this isn't funny," Danny said, grabbing her phone and trying to close the message. The screen remained unchanged. "What the hell?" Marcus stood up and walked to the window, peering out into the darkness. "Could be a system test. The government has those emergency alert systems." "All at once on every device?" Charlie said skeptically. "And just telling people to conceal themselves? No information about what to hide from?" Nate, always the most pragmatic among them, pulled out his satellite phone, the emergency backup he'd brought just in case of trouble. "I'll try calling the local sheriff's office." The phone didn't even ring. Instead, a distorted, computerized voice simply said, "Conceal." Then silence. Isla felt her heart rate quicken. What if it's real? What if there's something out there we need to hide from? Like what? Charlie scoffed, but his voice lacked conviction. A tornado? A nuclear attack? Zombies? I don't know, Isla admitted, but governments don't just issue warnings like this for no reason. Another flash of lightning, followed immediately by thunder that crashed so loudly it made them all jump. The lights went out completely this time, plunging them into darkness broken only by the glow of the fireplace and their device screens, all still displaying that single word. Marcus moved away from the window. Let's not panic. There are emergency supplies in the basement, flashlights, a weather radio. Let's get those and figure out what's happening. As he spoke, a new sound penetrated the drumming of the rain. A vehicle, its engine laboring on the muddy road toward the cabin. Someone's coming, Nate said, moving to the window, the headlights appearing through the trees, high beams cutting through the rain and the fog. Could be the property manager, Danny suggested. Maybe they know what's going on. The vehicle, a Forest Service truck, Isla could now see, came to a stop in front of the cabin. Its headlights remained on, pointed at the cabin, but no one emerged. Why aren't they getting out? Charlie whispered. Maybe they're checking something first, Danny offered, but she too had lowered her voice. Minutes passed. The truck sat idling, headlights glaring, windshield wipers slashing rhythmically across the glass. Still, no one emerged. I don't like this, Isla murmured. Why would they just sit there? I'm going to talk to them, Marcus decided, reaching for his jacket. No, Charlie grabbed his arm. What if the warning is real? What if we're actually supposed to conceal ourselves? From the Forest Service? Marcus said incredulously. We don't know if it's real Forest Service, Nate pointed out. We can only see the truck, not who's driving it. As they debated, another change occurred. Their devices simultaneously began displaying something new, a countdown. 10 minutes, it read. 9 minutes, 59 seconds. 9 minutes, 58 seconds. 10 minutes until what? Danny's voice had risen in pitch. The truck's engine suddenly revved and its headlights went dark. The driver's side door opened and a figure emerged. In the darkness and the rain, it was impossible to make out details. Get away from the windows, Nate said urgently, pulling at Isla's arm. If we're supposed to conceal ourselves, let's find somewhere to hide. This is ridiculous, Marcus protested, but even he had backed away from the window. Where? Where can we hide? Basement, Charlie suggested. It's the most secure part of the cabin. They moved as a group toward the basement door, grabbing their phones as they went. The devices continued their silent countdown, now approaching the 9-minute mark. The sound of footsteps on the porch stopped them cold. Slow, deliberate steps. Hurry, Isla whispered, her mouth dry with fear. They descended the basement stairs in darkness, guided only by the glow of their phone screens. The basement was unfurnished, with concrete floors and walls, a few storage shelves, and a small bathroom. Marcus found a flashlight on one of the shelves and switched it on, casting long shadows across the space. A knock came from above. 3 slow, deliberate raps on the front door. We should answer it, Marcus whispered. It could be help. Or whatever we're supposed to be hiding from, Charlie countered. The knock came again, more insistent this time. Maybe it's someone else who got the warning, Danny suggested. Another vacationer looking for shelter. 8 minutes, 32 seconds. 8 minutes, 31 seconds. 8 minutes, 30 seconds. The countdown continued its relentless progress. What would happen when it reached 0? Isla didn't want to find out. The door upstairs creaked open. "Did anyone lock it?" Nate asked, his eyes wide. No one answered. They hadn't locked it. Why would they in this remote location? Footsteps moved across the floor above them, slow, measured, exploring. "In here," Marcus whispered, pointing to the small bathroom. It was barely large enough for all of them, but it had a door, a barrier between them and whatever was upstairs. They crowded in, closing the door behind them. Marcus turned off the flashlight, leaving them in darkness again, except for the screens that bathed their faces in an eerie glow. 7 minutes, 45 seconds. "What do we do?" Isla whispered. "Wait," Nate replied, "and hope that whoever or whatever it is doesn't find us." The footsteps above continued their methodical exploration of the cabin, and then silence. "Maybe they left," Danny suggested hopefully. A creak on the basement stairs destroyed that hope. Isla felt Charlie tense beside her. They were pressed so closely together in the small space that she could feel his heart racing, matching her own frantic pulse. The basement steps continued, deliberate, unhurried, as if whatever was descending had all the time in the world, as if it knew exactly where they were hiding. 6 minutes, 12 seconds. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs. They could hear movement in the main area of the basement now, things being shifted, examined. "If it's human, I can try to reason with it," Marcus breathed, barely audible. "If it's not..." "Then what?" Charlie hissed. Marcus had no answer. The footsteps approached the bathroom door, stopped directly outside. Isla closed her eyes, as if not seeing would somehow make her invisible. Her mind raced through possibilities. A murderer? A government agent? An alien? Something beyond human understanding? None of the options offered any comfort. The door handle turned slowly. 5 minutes, 0 seconds. Exactly halfway through the countdown. Was that significant? Isla wondered deliriously. The bathroom door opened, revealing a figure silhouetted against the marginally lighter darkness of the basement. Average height, indistinct features, human-shaped at least. "There you are," said a voice, pleasant, ordinary, terrifying in its normalcy. "I was wondering where you were concealing yourselves." "Who are you?" Marcus demanded, his therapist's voice steady despite everything. "A friend," the figure said, "a messenger with a warning." "A warning about what?" Nate asked. "About choices," the figure replied. "About time running out." The figure stepped into the bathroom and they pressed back against the wall, making room even though every instinct screamed to maintain distance. In the glow of their phones, Isla could now see the figure's face. It was unremarkable. Neither male nor female, neither young nor old. A face that would be forgotten the moment it was no longer seen. "You have a decision to make," the figure continued calmly. "When the countdown reaches 0, one of you must be chosen." "Chosen for what?" Danny's voice shook. "To go with me," the figure said simply. "The rest will remain." "Go where?" Charlie demanded. The figure smiled with an expression that couldn't be discerned by its empty eyes. "Away." 3 minutes, 47 seconds. "And what if we refuse?" Marcus challenged. "Then I take all of you," the figure replied. It's really quite generous, offering to leave most of you behind. Isla felt sick. This can't be happening. It is, the figure assured her, and time is running out. You should discuss who will be chosen. I'll give you some privacy for that. It stepped back out of the bathroom, but left the door open. I'll be waiting. They could hear it moving around the basement, examining items on the shelves with casual interest, as if it had all the time in the world. 3 minutes, 0 seconds. We need to rush it, Nate whispered. Together we could overpower it. And then what? Danny countered. The countdown is still going. What happens when it reaches 0? We can't just choose one of us, Isla said desperately. That's insane. Marcus was silent, his expression unreadable in the dim light. What are you thinking? Charlie asked him. I'm thinking, Marcus said slowly, that we don't actually know this thing can do what it claims. It could be a sick joke, a psychopath playing games. Are you willing to bet all of our lives on that? Danny asked. No, Marcus admitted, but I'm also not willing to sacrifice one of us based on a threat that might be empty. 1 minute, 52 seconds. We're running out of time, Nate reminded them unnecessarily. We need to make a decision. There has to be another option, Isla insisted. Maybe we can bargain, offer something else. Like what? Charlie's voice had an edge of hysteria now. What could we possibly offer? Isla had no answer. 1 minute left. The figure returned to the bathroom doorway. Have you decided? It asked pleasantly. They looked at each other, 5 friends bound by years of shared history, now faced with an impossible choice. We need more time, Marcus said, attempting to negotiate, as he would with a therapy client in crisis. There's no more time, the figure replied, and there never will be. 30 seconds. Please, Danny begged, just tell us what you want. What is this about? It's about choice, the figure said again. About sacrifice, about what you value most. Each other, Isla said firmly. We value each other. We won't choose. The figure's expression didn't change, but somehow conveyed disappointment nonetheless. Then I take all of you. 10 seconds. Wait, Charlie suddenly shouted. The property manager, take him. What? Isla stared at him in shock. The property manager, Jensen, Charlie said desperately. He lives about a mile down the road. Take him instead of us. The figure tilted its head, considering. Someone not present? Interesting choice. 5 seconds. Yes, Nate jumped in, understanding Charlie's desperate gambit. Jensen, we choose him. 4 seconds. We can't do this, Isla protested. We can't just offer up someone else. 3 seconds. All of us have to agree, the figure said. Unanimous sacrifice. 2 seconds. Marcus and Danny looked at each other and then nodded. Jensen, Jensen, they said together. All eyes turned to Isla. 1 second. I'm sorry, she whispered to Jensen, to the universe, to whatever moral code she was violating. Jensen. 0 seconds. The world went white. Isla blinked against the sudden brightness. Disoriented, she was sitting at the dining table, Scrabble tiles arranged before her. Around the table sat her friends, all looking as confused as she felt. What just happened? Charlie asked, his voice hoarse. The cabin was exactly as it had been before. Lights on, television quietly playing in the background, Rain pattering against the windows, but no sign of a truck outside, no mysterious figure. Their phones, sitting on the table, showed normal home screens, no countdown, no warning. "Did we all hallucinate?" Danny suggested weakly. "Mass hallucination isn't really a thing," Nate said, though he sounded unsure. "Not like that, not so coherent and shared." Marcus was pale, his usual confidence shaken. "Then what? A shared dream?" "It felt real," Isla said. "It felt completely real." They sat in silence, the Scrabble game forgotten. A knock at the door made them all jump. Marcus was the first to recover. "I'll get it," he said, though he moved toward the door with visible reluctance. He opened it to reveal a middle-aged man in a rain jacket. "Mr. Jensen," Marcus said, his voice strained. "It's the property manager," he announced to the others. "Sorry to bother you folks so late," Jensen said cheerfully. "Just wanted to check if everything's okay. We've got a big storm coming, might affect the power. Wanted to make sure you know where all the emergency supplies are." "We're fine," Marcus said quickly. "Thank you." Jensen nodded. "All right then, you folks have a good night. Don't hesitate to call if you need anything." As Jensen turned to leave, Isla caught a glimpse of his eyes, ordinary eyes, warm and human. But for just a moment, she thought she saw something else there, something knowing, something old. Marcus closed the door and leaned against it. "Just a coincidence," he said, not sounding convinced. "But what if it wasn't?" Charlie asked quietly. "What if it was real? What if we really chose him?" "But nothing happened to him," Danny pointed out. "He's fine." "For now," Nate said grimly. Isla looked down at the Scrabble board and the words they'd created, her eyes fixed on Nate's last play, Dread. Next to it, previously unnoticed, was a word none of them remembered playing. Conceal. Outside, the storm intensified, and somewhere in the distance, a vehicle's engine started up, then faded away into the night. Thanks for listening to my Dark Veil tale. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. It really does help me grow this channel so I can make more content for your enjoyment. Also, check out the linked video for another creeper-style story from Dark Veil Tales.